because we have a son of Africa who has moved away and is in our studio virtually. Come on, virtually. Everything's virtually. Roy, just for you, I changed the background to a Drakensberg background just to bring you back. You're on a journey which has changed a number of times over the years, from a small town in the Eastern Cape to the big city of Joburg, back to the small town, then off to Germany. You moved from working in corporate IT, working for yourself, and then working in education, and now working to revolutionize the economic world. How's that for a summary? And can you fill in the blanks? Where are you at the moment?
Wow, thanks, Dan, and thanks for the invitation.
That's
I must say I'm feeling a little bit nervous because it's almost like I feel like I'm talking to my previous life,
Yeah.
and I'm not quite sure where it's going to land or how it's going to land. So let's see where this goes.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
And I hope it gets a bit wild and woolly, because that's kind of what I like. So I might disappoint you, because I'm going to shy away from answering questions directly, because that's one of the paradigm shifts that I'm stepping into, and I call it a paradigm shift because it's completely different to the world I come from, where, you know, my career in IT and in corporate and so on, you need to sit around the boardroom table, you need to sit in front of your team and have the answers.
Okay.
And I'm off in a different direction. So I'm unlearning, trying not to have the answers.
So before we go there, you were well known for the work that you did, and you were a partner in a successful Microsoft environment, and you were known for innovative solutions and developing innovative solutions. And then you almost took a left field and moved into education. What prompted that move already? What was that, a decade ago? Why did you want to step out of corporate life then?
There are two things, and I didn't quite step out of corporate life. So it was a two-step opportunity. So the first one was after many years as a consultant, which is sitting on a particular side of the table.
Okay.
This was an opportunity to sit on the other side of the table as a client, in a way. So I was a CIO. So I was in a different seat in the table.
Okay.
Kind of dealing with consultants and and hearing the BS
hey.
that often gets dished up. Do you have to beat that? Do you have to beat that?
What BS? Okay. So people were pitching to you. That was the vibe. And was that a good move?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other part of it is I was in a different relationship with the end customer of IT solutions. So you know, my internal clients for the first time I was in a different relationship with them, and in a different relationship with the management structures, with the board structures. So it was, if I've got some advice for anyone in the IT industry, is spend some time in a role inside an organization.
Okay.
Because as I say, you're kind of on the other side of the table and you get a completely different view.
Okay.
And then when you do listen to what consultants tell you, you've got a different perspective on it. So, and I'm all about multiple perspectives, different perspectives, coming at it from different places.
It's a problem with you, though, Roy, because you ask us to ask questions of ourselves when you look at them from those sides. Can we reuse, reduce, recycle? Is there a better way? Do you find that the world's ready for that, or are we still discovering where we are going with the plethora of IT solutions we have? Isn't it just complicated enough dealing with this cuck?
Beep. But you know, what choice is there? I mean, this is life. This is the beauty of life, and wow, there's so many directions we can take this, but maybe that's one thing, is that, I think we are under this illusion that, and this is developed out of science, because science kind of says if we look closely enough, we can answer everything. We can deconstruct it, find out exactly what's going on and work it out.
Okay.
But I think the reality is that the world is complex. The world is a complex system, and things are changing all the time. So again, in the IT, in the education world I was in, we talked about the fourth industrial revolution, where you've got to live in the change all the time. Kind of, you've got to be a surfer. You know what it's like to be a surfer, and respond to things coming at you all the time. And so to answer the question, I think it's a mistake to think that it can just be simple.
Okay.
And so it's better to actually learn the way to surf, to respond to those shifts. And and biologically, we as humans are very good at that. We are constantly in our biology responding to micro things going on all the time.
Okay.
But in our cognitive abilities, we've got the story that we need to simplify, break it down, make it more efficient, make it a machine. There's like the world as a machine story. Okay. And I'd say IT is perhaps a blind spot of the IT industry, is that we can just carry on that world, make it more simple, make it more efficient, and sort it out that way.
So this you didn't just dream this up. What is the foundation for this change that you've come through? What was the catharsis that you went through to arrive that? I know you've said for many years there's got to be a better way, but what have you studied, or what learning have you done to unlearn where you have come from? And then, double-edged question, is there space in the less developed world, the third world, in this vision? Or is this a first world finding? Because you live in the first world now.
Yeah. Sure. So I'm going to read a line of poetry, and I know I'm going to come at it from a different angle, if you'll allow me.
Go big.
And this is from an Italian, Dante, the Divine Comedy.
Yeah.
And this is, it's written in Italian, but David White, another poet, translated it. In the middle of the road of life, I awoke in a dark wood where the true way was wholly lost. And I guess, that's kind of the sense I came to. And it wasn't a moment. It was a sense that's developed over many years, and that kind of short left turn to go out of Joburg and go to the Eastern Cape and into the education space was part of that. But there are a couple of things in that line of poetry which is about the true way, and it's about waking up in a wood. So firstly, the true way, and I think it's a mistake that humans think that they can plan and that there is a true way. And we have the story about, if we can just get the right Post-its and Gantt chart and so on, we can like get there. And then the second thing is about waking up in a forest. And this is about, so for me, it's about listening to the non-human world and to the non-cognitive world. And kind of there's a matching poem to that, which is by David Wagoner. He's a kind of an American indigenous tradition. And he says, and it's a poem called Lost, he says, stand still. The forest knows where you are. You must let it find you. And so and we're talking about paradigm shifts. That is a paradigm shift. So often if you find you're lost, you want to like work out rationally how to get away from that.
Yeah.
And this is saying, maybe you aren't actually lost. If you just notice in a different way what's around you, you'll find you aren't lost. And so anyway, I mean, so my childhood on a farm, barefoot kind of, I had 15 years of living on a farm. We grew our own food. I spent my time barefoot listening to the birds and watching the trees and watching the seasons and so on. So I guess that's always been in me. And this phase is a remembering of that.
Okay.
Now, part of my challenge with my time in the IT industry is that I really felt the sense of everything is so virtual, so much in your head, so much in concepts, in, human created project plans, et cetera, in science, that I felt ungrounded. And I've got the sense that my work in life now is to get my hands into the soil. And while I come from this virtual world, it's kind of to bring these two things together, to almost ground the way that this virtual world is going. And then you asked, who are some of the thinkers in the space? What is this called? Et cetera. And there are two kind of IT related terms that might help. So the one is solar punk.
Okay.
So, and I put that there because it's as related to cyberpunk. So
and steampunk, which I read a lot of. So
yes,
moving, okay. So
yes. So cyberpunk, but cyberpunk is kind of quite a dark artistic form or a artistic expression, kind of Matrix. Is probably like the way, and to some degree, I think we might be, we're heading in that direction from an IT perspective.
Okay.
Solar punk is kind of playing off against that and saying, maybe there's an and. So we instead of the technology almost becoming the masters of us, which is cyberpunk kind of world, how could we use the amazing technology we have and reconnect it with the natural world? So the solar driven energy, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one line.
Wow.
And then the other terminology is a way of relating to each other. And this is the world of warm data.
Okay.
And now I know, I've invited you into a warm data conversation before.
Yes.
And maybe just to place it, warm data as opposed to cold data. Cold data is what IT runs on. It's the information. It's, hard facts. It's, measured everything. It's so on. Warm data is saying, actually, there's a whole lot we don't know. We can't measure. Our machines can't measure. And it's kind of from a body point of view, it's everything like below here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we sit in this cognitive world, it's reconnecting to our bodies, our gut, our heart, our emotions, all of that messy stuff that is, poetry, etc., that is not allowed around the corporate table.
Around the boardroom table, you'll get booed out for bringing Dante to the boardroom table.
Exactly. So
this is a place where we make money, man.
Exactly.
And do you think that there is a space for us at that table as the thinkers and the feelers and the dreamers and the lovers and the artists and the musicians, or are we really now stretching our imagination because the corporate's going to run everything?
I can't answer that, but I hope so. And that's my work.
So what gives you hope then? What gives you hope? What gives you energy that you can carry on bringing this kind of mini or not so mini revolution around?
Again, I'm going to use a story to answer that question. frustrate the hell out of you because I don't answer it straight. You ask me a question and there goes Roy.
We may edit him.
Yeah. There's a phrase in English, and this talks to how we use language to create our reality as well, called beyond the pale. So, and the pale was originally in Ireland. The English were invading Ireland and they built a fence. So think of it a parlor in Afrikaans, a whole lot of, and the phrase beyond the pale means, it's not allowed. It's like what you're saying is beyond the pale. It's out of morality. It's out of acceptance. It's out of that. So to some degree, I feel I'm going beyond the pale because I'm going outside of what's accepted as a corporate way of, we have a way of talking, we have a way of holding meetings, we have a way of planning things, etc. There's kind of an acceptable thing. And what I found beyond the pale is that there are a whole lot of people there already.
Wow.
So I've met people who kind of helped me to realize I'm not mad, which is useful. I've got to check myself every now and then. And by the way, women are the leaders in this world.
Wow.
It is phenomenal. The women who are in this world are just amazing, powerful, and leading the way. And so, what I'm imagining is coming back. If you think of going beyond the wall, maybe in Game of Thrones talk, beyond the wall, and you come back and you bring the message of what you've seen back to the wall or the pale.
Yeah.
And that's the work that I'm doing. Sure. Is trying to convince that these boundaries are actually human made. It's a story. And this is where we can go back into the economic story, because I believe that fundamentally the problem is not that, we're not recycling our plastic at home.
Yeah.
That's a part of it, but that's not the change to make.
Okay.
Change is actually at the level of the story we tell ourselves about where this acceptable thing is. Okay. And we've made the economy the leader in that story. Okay. We have appointed growth, money, wealth accumulation. We've appointed that as our driving story.
Okay.
And that there's a way to shift our perception of that story and choose a different story. And here, I would recommend the book Donut Economics by Kate Raworth, who's one of these amazing women that I've come across. And she doesn't give answers. She actually just says, here are 7 paradigm shifts they unpick the way we've come to look at things and ask a question about how it could be different. So the book is great in that sense. It's not giving answers. And one of those things is to put the economy in its right relationship with other things. And those other things are the natural world, seeing ourselves as citizens rather than as consumers. So
wow.
That's a big distinction.
Wow.
Seeing the economy as just one part of an equal relationship between business and the market. The commons, which is really let's say the artistic world, the shared world, nature itself, and the state, which is kind of our story of how we organize ourselves. So it's it's putting the economy back into the right relationship. So it's not saying it's wrong. It's not saying the market's wrong. It's not saying, capitalism must die. We must go to communism. That's, those are false binaries.
Yes.
And the donut itself is saying, we have to sort out social justice and environmental justice at the same time. We live on a planet that has limits, it has boundaries, and we live on a planet where a lot of our social structures are unjust. And I guess that talks to your question about, does this work for first world and third world? And absolutely. This is a way of thinking, a story about how what's important to us as humans, that applies across the board. So sure, it feels like I'm almost giving a lecture, and I don't want to, but
don't worry. I'm enjoying.
Stop.
I'm enjoying it from a perspective of you're giving it a foundation, and the first bit about making change is educating people to what is the destination. I don't think you've got there now, but why now? What's the urgency around this, and why are you willing to go out and talk about this when you could be ridiculed for it? Where it's like it could be, if we were in the boarding school, in the hostel, and you were spouting this, you could end up in a dustbin.
Yeah, absolutely.
So why now?
So again, multiple answers. So firstly, the warning signs in terms of the way we are going are getting louder.
Okay.
So, and these are from a climate point of view, from an environmental breakdown point of view, and from a social breakdown point of view. So those warnings are getting louder, and I hope that's not a way off statement. I mean, those things are starting to become mainstream in terms of those warnings. So that movie Don't Look Up is kind of a good illustration of that.
So you didn't agree with the critics that Leonardo had let himself go and it was his first crap movie in a decade?
No. I thought it was profound, but I thought it also didn't give answers. It was a profound view of some of the paradoxes we live in, but it doesn't necessarily give answers. So, and I'm more interested in okay, well, what do we do differently? The second thing is, I guess, moving from South Africa to Germany. So that has given a shift in the space to see, to look around. My sense in South Africa, my life was quite tightly wound up about my own social and my family's social foundation, about safety and purchasing safety. And moving to Germany has given me a little bit of space, because there's some of that work that I was doing to try and keep safe that doesn't need to be done necessarily anymore. And I guess part of it might also be just the phase of life I'm in, mid-40s, what I want to do with the rest of my life, and was I on the right track? And, so I don't think it happened suddenly, but there was a voice, an uncomfortable voice in me that was just saying, oh, this rat race, this corporate stuff, this, working on IT systems that just make things more efficient all the time, It's like, there's the joke in the IT industry. If you automate a bad process, you're just going to make the badness faster.
No, exactly.
And my sense is, we as humanity we're in a car, we're driving in this one direction, and that's the economic story that we've got. And, the tech industry is working hard to make that car self-driving, go faster, but we're not changing direction. We're sitting in the back checking our Instagram feed, feeling comfortable, and we're just going faster. And that's, I guess, that dystopian
I love
cyberpunk.
Come on, steampunk. Roy, do
Yeah.
you honestly believe that the business world is ready to be run with love as one of the triple bottom lines? Do you think we're there? And do you see any examples of it out there, or are you still educating?
Yeah, I see it happening. So part of the work I've been doing. So I've been volunteering in a team that's building a board game. So it's a board game that kind of can immerse you in a world that is more like the donut economics world. So I call it anti-monopoly, but I don't like to be anti. I rather like monopoly's in there. It's bigger than monopoly.
Yeah.
So that and so some of the I've hit up against some of these questions, like because we've been asking each other, like, how do we run our project? How do we manage ourselves? How do we communicate with each other? Who's the boss?
What do we do with non-performers?
All of those questions. And so again, there's amazing work being done in that space, again, by women. Woohoo! Carol Sanford, the kind of horizontal organization thinking, and so on. So that's one level.
Okay.
And then there's positivity I'm seeing in a model called B Corps.
Okay.
So I don't know if you've come across that. So companies like Patagonia is kind of the poster child for B Corps. Which are driven from a different value, starting value point. It's not, yes, growth comes along the way. Yes, there's money and value and whatever, but that's not the starting point. The purpose of the organization is different. So I'm really hopeful, and we do see some of those companies coming through. And again, I'd recommend, like, if you are in a company, go and read what it means to be a B Corp and consider like how far is your own company from that, and what might be a route to get there.
That's awesome, Roy. And I think what happens when people hear these things, we're usually nervous about what's in it for me and what's going to be taken away from me, especially in a South African context. We seem to polarize ourselves because we're losing all the time. Somebody's losing somewhere. Do you think that that's one of the obstructions that's in the way from a global perspective? It's we know no different, so we don't want to look anywhere else, and it's only revolutionaries that can look out of the pale? Or do you think business is ready to make those small changes to make radical impacts?
I'd answer it from a perspective of business is people. Business is a story that the people in the business tell.
Okay.
And so part of the work is to change the conversation at the people level.
Okay.
So, and I talk about warm data. Warm data conversations are a way of shifting the conversation, of widening what's allowed, of letting people on the edges, the revolutionaries or the people coming back from outside the pale and telling their stories, like allowing those stories to be told.
Yeah.
And, I guess different people are going to be at different places. And I think it's about finding the people who are ready for it. Instead of saying, so there's not going to be one like president of the world who says, okay, now everybody change. And IT, I think, is heading in that way. We've got a lack of diversity. If you think about it, there are maybe 5 or 6 proprietary platforms that run the IT space. That's not very diverse, and who's deciding the ethics within those spaces. Wow. Yeah, it's an and thing. I wanted to offer a model of thinking about this, which is from a guy called Daniel Vahl, who's written a book, Designing Regenerative Cultures, which is kind of a seminal work in the space. And it's a model of talking about, so here's the status quo, it's busy running, and here's the to be state. And the question is, and these things are quite different. The question is, how do we get across that chasm? And he talks about the transition. And the transition is really, it's holding the as is and bridging it into the to be. And that's a difficult space to be. And I guess any change has to go through that transition phase where you, and he uses an interesting phrase. So it calls it hospicing the old system. So holding it with love while it dies, and midwifing the new.
Wow.
And you're doing both of and you're doing both of those things at the same time, and they are holding both with equal love. It's not saying that the old one is wrong or bad or whatever. It's just, its time has come. It's time to let it die.
Wow. If you had a large budget, I'm talking large in euro budget, what would your top 3 priorities be for 2022?
My word. I'm not there.
Come on, man. Fake it, Roy. Fake it. Okay. No, that's so you would. No, so you're still discovering.
Yeah. So, let me rather answer by what I'm doing.
Okay.
And it's a mix of those 3. So, I have to engage with the old. So I've got to work in the existing model, because that's where real money pops out the end of it.
Pays the bills. It's pretty good. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. And then, although, let me be clear that I'm also, I'm playing a role of, in Germany, we call it the Hausmann. So in South Africa, you'd call it the Hausfrau. But there's value to that role.
Yeah.
And that's part of the mistake that our current story tells, is that home work is not valuable. It's not, because you can't measure it in rands. It's therefore, we exclude it.
So let me take a segue in here for our guests. Roy is the father of 2 beautiful daughters and the husband to a beautiful wife. And he, when they moved to Germany, his work stopped and he was staying at home. And you are an amazing caregiver and an amazing parent. And I learned from you from a parenting perspective, because your kids are a couple of months older than mine. So it's really good to learn from you. And I'd like to say that we're both pretty hands-on from a father perspective, which is part of the new generation, and dads, with moms and dads and everybody getting to work. It means that everyone should be at home, but it's almost a shock to hear that someone is staying home with the kids when they're male. And, it hurts me every day to leave my kids. I would love to be able to spend more time with them. So I'm quite jealous about the last 2 years that you've had. And just hats off to you for taking that time and for Meg's giving you that opportunity that you can do that. So I'm a fan.
Well, and and it's a beautiful dance, because it actually, to be honest, Megan's probably better at me at operating in that world right now. So go for it. There shouldn't be a story about who does what that stops us doing that. But so that's one of the things, is to really feel value generation at a different level through kind of being.
So money doesn't give you value.
Well, there's always an and,
okay.
but it's acknowledging that value instead of when our economic story is primary, it discounts that value, which is a mistake. So it's bringing it into balance. Okay. The second thing is to work locally. So, in a way, global best practice is again BS, because that's talking about a monoculture. Like there's one solution for how this whole world should run.
Yeah.
No, work local. The story of what happens locally is so important. And so I'm working with, there's a local organization called Circular Munich, which is really a collection point for this conversation about circular economy, about donut thinking, etc., about who's doing what, how we can connect people up, etc. So that feels very appropriate as a target for 2022. It's something I can do on the ground now, locally. Okay. And then there's another leg to it, which, as I said, is to earn some real money in the traditional economy. Yeah. So there's a piece to that. And then I'm playing with this facilitation, which is the kind of conversation we're having, and in what's called the gift economy.
Yeah.
Which is, so I offer myself, my capabilities for better or for worse. And you tell me at the end what you can contribute, and did I give you value, and so on. And that's actually an interesting, if we bring it back to a natural world. And there's another side note. Biomimicry is an amazing space which kind of asks, what would nature do? If you think of a berry, a berry is offering itself. There is a payload inside the berry, which is the seed.
Yeah.
But it's a gift economy. It's offering the sweetness, and in return there's a reciprocation. So I'm playing with offering these kind of spaces, offering these kind of conversations immersed in nature, holding these kind of warm data conversations, etc. In the gift economy space. So, I mean, I have no answers. I have a sense of the direction. There's multiple steps. So that would be where I'm at.
So you got to stop now. I'm going to nail you down for an answer. if you were speaking at the CIO forum in Midrand, what would your 2022 message be, and what one practical tip would you give them to make a step to the donut economy, a step towards it?
Can I have two?
Yes,
steps?
You can have.
So the first one would be to work on the way that communication happens. So to break down that hierarchical way that communication happens in organizations, to start unpicking that, to allow more equality of voice. Okay. So something like warm data, something like art of hosting, something like, the going horizontal has interesting games you can play, asking each other questions, opening the conversation. Okay. it's really allowing more of the person to arrive in the space.
Okay.
So that would be step number 1.
Okay.
And then step number 2 would be to have conversations around shifting paradigms, and I think donut economics is a great starting point, because it's a way to bring those paradigms forward and ask questions. And and I say those 2 things because someone can tell you the new story, but unless you've worked on preparing the ground to receive it, it's not going to land. And so there's that step 1, which is preparing the ground to receive it, and step 2, to start exploring new stories and bringing them into the space.
If you were now speaking to a graduate class of IT students, what would your challenge be to them? What would you challenge them with moving forward?
I would say, with your IT studies, do a course in philosophy, or in ethics, or in ecological thinking. Keep IT grounded, because in nature, things don't happen for the sake of themselves. And IT, I think often a lot of what we do is just for the sake of keeping IT going. So it's like self-serving, but no, IT needs to serve humanity and nature.
Sure.
And so things like ethics, ecological thinking, and so on will ground IT.
Sure, that's a lot to think about, Roy. We're coming to the end of our time, and I think we're going to have to invite you back, because there's so much. Where can we learn more? I would love you just to send me a mail that we can include in the body of this, so we can include it in the comments section. If you had a podcast, what would the title be, and who would it be aimed at, is a question I'd love to ask you. But I'm actually going to end with, what is the one question you wished that I'd asked you during our time, so that we could dive into that? Don't be such a coward, man. Answer that question. Or is there nothing? You happy?
Yeah. I mean, so the answer would be something more about, how are you in your heart today, Roy?
Woo, boom, just slap Daniel. Wow, that is fantastic. That's what I'm missing? That is my Johari's window. That is the blind spot.
And see that because of the structure of podcast IT industry that we are arriving at this conversation in, that question is not allowed. It's not allowed to ask that.
I have been humbled. That is amazing. Roy Hobson, you are a flippin' legend. Thank you for teaching me something right throughout today. I've got so many notes on things for me to go and learn from today's session. I wish we could just carry on and on, and maybe you're a quarterly person that we're going to be calling on to hold us accountable. Roy, it's an absolute pleasure to see you again. It's an absolute pleasure to dive into your strange, interesting, intricate, deep mind that I struggle to even see the edge of the table with. Nevertheless, what's on the table. But thanks for taking the time and taking us through this. And I wish you every success in the year ahead.
Thanks, Dan. What a privilege to meet with you, and really, my offer is that I have this capability that I'm offering to the world. And
where can people get hold of you, Roy?
Well, I think I'm shaping my services through an organization called Turaco, just a nice Naluri.
Okay.
So it's roy@turaco.earth is my email. There's no website or anything game A about me yet. There's no podcast. There's just an email, roy@turaco.earth.
Okay.
And am I allowed to end with a line of poetry?
Of course, I was going to do the same to you. So you
will you? Okay.
Absolutely.
So this is Maya Angelou, which is do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better.
Wow. Well, I can't even read my poem. Yours was too good. Thank you so much, Roy Hobson. Roy,
thanks, Dan. From
our side at Rocket, have an amazing day. I hope the sun's shining in Germany, and we will see you soon.
Awesome. Thanks.